Hello and welcome to the Bitglass webinar. I'm Carmen Villegas, Director of Vendor Business Development for Bitglass. Today we have a special guest joining us, Jonathan Anderson, Senior Director, and Bill, Channel Sales Account Manager at Bitglass. Today we'll explain the fundamentals of SASE and why it matters to the partner community. We'll cover an overview of SASE technology and cover real-world use case for securing SASE and the benefits of moving to a cloud-first SASE platform, as well as what the partner programs and SPIFs are available to you. First, I'd like to share a few exclusive key differentiators. Exclusive Networks' key contribution to the industry is that we specialize in cybersecurity and the cloud, maintaining a specialization with a narrow set of best-of-breed vendors such as Bitglass. In this way, Exclusive Networks can assist the channel community with vendor-specific and training, sales, design, implementation, and pre-staging, and of course, supply chain logistics, both domestically and globally, filling in the gaps, helping many different types of partners to supply and deliver relevant multi-vendor solutions to their customers. Before I hand it over to Jonathan and Bill, I'd like to remind you to use the chat window for any questions. Jonathan, the floor is all yours.
All right, hello, my name is Jonathan Andreessen. I'm from Bitglass, and today I want to talk to you about the future of IT security. And the future really is SASE, Secure Access Service Edge. And over the next 35 to 40 minutes, what I want to do is introduce to you Bitglass's vision for SASE, how you can take advantage of this new technology right now to add value to your customers and help them secure their data and fast track their cloud migration and their remote workforce. So let's get started. To tell the story of SASE, we really need to talk about some major trends in the industry. And I think the first thing is no one would really dispute the fact that cloud computing is here to stay. And what cloud computing really does is it gives us access to infinite data whenever we want it. We can scale up data, we can spin up workloads in AWS instantly, we can access infinite data. And when you combine that with the ability to access data anywhere, we really have the ability to change how we work and how we work together as an enterprise. We communicate a lot faster, we collaborate a lot faster on things like SharePoint, all sorts of platforms now that are cloud-based to make the business run faster. You know, we're changing workflows that were paper and perhaps not digital into digital assets that make the work flow faster, but also introduce new use cases at your organization with your customers, with your partners, new products, all of that completely changes. What we really get is a business that's more productive and the employees that are more efficient, and all of this comes together to drive digital transformation. That's a huge, huge trend for everyone in IT. It affects every industry, every part of every workforce, no matter whether you're in HR or finance or marketing, changes how we deliver products and services, changes all the workflows, and creates huge and new opportunities for IT to drive new businesses. And what I really like about digital transformation and this market now is that IT doesn't just support the business, we actually drive new business. And that really means that IT isn't a help desk anymore. IT is actually in the driver's seat for almost every business as we go towards digital transformation. And this is a huge, huge opportunity. Most companies are going through some sort of digital transformation. And the era we're in now with COVID and the pandemic is only fast tracking that much more towards digital. And so digital is a huge potential. The only challenge is security. Security is the one thing that can slow down the migration to digital, the migration to cloud services. And while it's interesting to have so many new devices that the users can take advantage of to be productive, new devices, new applications, new cloud services, new operating systems, it's never been more exciting to be, you know, in IT and to be in a modern workforce, but creates a lot of headaches for security. And in this world, we knew that security was already having a challenge as the surfaces for attacks were expanding. Even before the pandemic hit, their data is in more places, accessed by more users, in more locations, in new ways. Really is more complex than ever to know where your data is and what data you need to secure. And so it's not just the typical workforce you need to worry about, it's all the context around the workforce, the partners that are accessing resources, whether they're suppliers for your customers, whether it's the VPNs that were typically used when 5 or 10% of the workforce was remote. That worked okay, but performance, latency, all those issues are much greater now when almost all of the workforce is now remote. Those VPNs weren't designed for that, and that's one thing we have to worry about, not just security, but performance. And then we have a whole bunch of new types of applications, SaaS applications, IaaS applications, the cloud applications that we're all using. All of that running on web traffic, all of that being accessed by new types of devices that are either managed or unmanaged at the same time. And so more of a headaches for IT of where to secure the data. And the real problem is that the infrastructure we have to do security, which has been designed from the past 15 or so plus years, that was designed to protect the data center and your data center applications and your data that was centrally located, is not ideally suited for this new world of a modern workforce where folks are digital and they're accessing cloud applications. And that legacy challenge is really having a really big impact with customers. I was on presentations the last few days with CIOs and CISOs. A lot of them are having a real challenge trying to modernize user access when they've got legacy VPN systems. Their data center security is all around firewalls. They've got IDS, IPS, locally and appliance-based secure web gateways. All that infrastructure was finely tuned, built in a layered defense or depth and defense security model, which today still runs the business, but it needs to innovate, and it wasn't built for today's environment. And if you look at the way we are today, it's really a modern perimeter that we have. And traditionally, of course, IT secured the moat around the data. We controlled the endpoint, we controlled the network access, we controlled the user identity. Things were more controlled, and maybe the business ran a bit slower. But in today's world, by contrast, everything is moving faster. The user controls how they want to access the data, which device they use, running on which operating system they want to use. IT doesn't own all of the infrastructure between the user and the data. And user trust, aka username and password, is no longer enough to secure data. We've had passwords with usernames since the days of Hotmail back in the late 90s. That's no longer security. Now, the infrastructure we have to run the business is basically an endpoint, which are all mobile today. Even Windows 10 is a mobile operating system, connecting into cloud infrastructure where your data is in someone else's data center. All that data is being accessed over a web interface, and 90% of that is encrypted, which means the load on your secure web gateways and your appliances is increasing, and it changes the dynamic for how we need to secure the data, because the data now is bypassing a large part of our data center. So the modern perimeter today is very different. It's very, very exciting for companies to take advantage of it, and it's really built on cloud services. And you could say a few years ago that maybe cloud wasn't going to be so quickly rolled out, but today it's everywhere. I mean, 85% or more penetration rates for Office 365. The average company has dozens of cloud applications. Your customer probably has several IaaS platforms, are using AWS and Azure, or maybe Google. The cloud environment is getting more pronounced, and it's not going away. It's just being how we manage data. And for a lot of companies, the bigger you are, the more cloud services you probably deploy. And that really is interesting, because the more cloud services you have, the more data outside your data center, the more your customer has to worry about security. So those larger companies in North America and around the world that are 1,000+ employees have an average of almost 300 applications today. And that's increasing all the time as we move towards more and more of a remote workforce. And bring your own device is the other dynamic we need to worry about. BYOD has been around for a long time, and now that people are remote, it's not just employees that are remote, it's our contractors, partners, everybody in the business ecosystem is largely working remotely and accessing more of their content on their own device. And we know from experience that it doesn't matter if it's your own device or a corporate issued device, every device will have a mix of personal and business. So we need to really secure the business data, no matter where and how it's accessed. And BYOD just means that we need to have an infrastructure, a security infrastructure that supports this trend, because this is what users want. Users want to access data on their own device. They will do that anyway, even if we can't lock down the device from corporate. So we need to have a platform that's user-friendly to secure BYOD data. When it comes to cloud services, a lot of people think of just uploading data to the cloud, and that's what we need to secure. The truth is much different when we think about cloud services. Cloud services today are where most people access data, and it's not just the data we upload, it's the data that transits between clouds. So for example, if I go to Office 365 and I move data from Office 365 to G Drive or Box or SharePoint, I'm moving that between cloud services. That basically, that data is going east-west. It's not just going north-south from my platform to the cloud. It's actually being shared between cloud services. And that connection between cloud services is all happening outside and bypassing your data center. So that east to west traffic is something that a lot of legacy security infrastructure does not secure today. And it's not just the east-west traffic, it's also the fact that more and more data is being created in the cloud, not just simply uploaded to the cloud, but created in the cloud. If you think of, IaaS workloads, people that are spinning up workloads and writing code in the cloud on this work platform workload, they're creating the data there. And we need to be able to monitor that data real time. It's changing. If we're changing how we're accessing, moving data around, we also need to change how we're securing that data. And the great graphic that shows this is what I'm showing you here. The question we always ask CIOs and CISOs is, do you know where your data is? And do you know how much of your traffic is cloud to cloud? And you'd be surprised that a large majority of their cloud traffic is actually happening between cloud services. And that's where we need an architecture that leverages APIs or a doorway into those cloud services so we can see what data is transiting between them. That's all happening outside of our legacy security infrastructure. Our network security, our web security that's typically on premise these days, all of our data center security, this is happening outside. And so today's world of mobile to cloud is really beyond our firewall traditional security. And your customer, chances are your customer is grappling with, how do I move this security architecture to cover the cloud and mobile devices? How do I make sure to have at least the same security as I do today, but modernize the tools, modernize the access so that users get the data they need, and doing it across a more complex environment of managed and unmanaged devices, new types of applications that are sanctioned and unsanctioned. The use cases are proliferating. New data paths mean new areas we need to secure. So if that was not enough, the thing that's really propelling the move to SASE today is also remote working. And Gartner says that 74% of companies don't even want their employees to return to the office. So there's a good chance that remote working will outlast COVID. And if companies weren't focused on remote working today, they really are, yesterday, they really are today. And this is not just a new normal, this is likely to continue. And so not simply upgrading their VPN, but thinking maybe they need a new infrastructure to secure this new environment. So the question you should be asking your customers, and as a partner like yourselves, one thing you can say is how do you secure your cloud and your mobile data while you're empowering remote workers with digital assets and digital transformation? That's the question most customers are grappling with, especially when you talk to IT decision makers. And it's not just that, it's how do they do it all at the same time? At the same time is where things get really, really difficult. And that's where I like to show you a world that what if you could What if you could see and protect all your data anywhere? What if you could see where your data is running inside any cloud application, any web application, on any type of endpoint device, laptop, tablet, running on any sort of cloud service provider's environment, whether it's IaaS or AWS or Azure? What if you could see that data all together in a single pane of glass with full control over all your data, with policy options allow you to customize access to the business and who needs to see what data and how, with an environment, within technology that's completely cloud native, built for today's cloud environment, built for a mobile workforce, while you're protected from insider threats and outsider malicious threats, ransomware, phishing attacks, all the things that are happening that you need to be worried about externally, maintaining 100% of compliance. What if you could do all of that while you could fast track a digital workforce? And where SASE comes into place, what if you could do all of that at lower operational costs? That's kind of the holy grail for a lot of customers today. And this is the value proposition that really leads us to a better way of providing enterprise security. And really it's about SASE, it's about SASE economics. According to Gartner, who coined the term SASE in 2019, 40% of companies will have SASE architecture in the next 4 years. But that is a statistic that came before the pandemic hit. And so likely right now, that's actually happening at a much faster pace. So the future really is secure access service edge. And the question is, of course, what is secure access service edge? And secure access service edge, or SASE, really combines two essential elements. The first is traditional cloud security, and cloud security, is providing data protection to make sure that data doesn't leave your organization in a cloud environment, threat protection, identity security, and visibility into your data. And that's typically, different types of technologies provide that cloud security, including CASB, for example, cloud access security brokers. And then there's also network security, and that's been around for quite a while now. Things like secure web gateways, firewalls, VPNs, your network security infrastructure that secures your remote access, does your URL filtering, does threat prevention. What SASE does is combine all of that into a single unified cloud delivered platform. And so, for the typical customer who has a huge security stack with multiple technologies for network security, as well as their cloud security, it can be very complicated and expensive. And so the idea with SASE is that all gets unified in a single platform. And at Bitglass, our vision for SASE is 3 essential pillars: cloud access security brokers, which we're known for, secure web gateways, which we have a new product for, and also ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access. All of these 3 elements are the key pillars of what we think is a best-of-breed SASE architecture. And of course, when it comes to a cloud access security broker, you want to have a technology that is multi-mode, that can work in different architectures depending on the business, provides real-time and out-of-band protection, DLP and ATP protection on any type of device, and most importantly for BYOD folks, an agentless protection, because people don't want to install agents on their own devices. All that to secure different models of managed devices, unmanaged devices, whether they're accessing managed apps or internal applications. And then we have secure web gateways, which have been around for quite a long time. And typically they're appliances. They typically work at the data center. They provide functions like URL filtering, threat protection, antivirus, some DLP as well as part of secure web gateway, looking into that web traffic, decrypting it, inspecting it, and making sure that it's secure. And so secure web gateways are a key part of the SASE environment. I'll get to that in a few more minutes. And then of course, zero trust network access. Zero trust network access is critical in today's cloud environment. We have to control access to the data. Since the content is hosted in other people's data centers, aka cloud services, you need to make sure that only the right people on the right applications, on the right devices, are able to access the data your corporate data. So ZTNA is a key part of the environment. We need to make sure that we provide that with threat protection for internal applications, and it's agents or agentless options, depending on the business. When it comes to CASB, CASB is typically, something that folks will deploy as a first step in their evolution towards a SASE architecture. And you might be already familiar with how cloud access security brokers work, but they provide 4 essential technologies: data protection, identity, visibility, and threat protection. And data protection is basically DLP controls, making sure that the right data is secured and doesn't leave the organization. We have to do that in real time, very quickly, to know where the data is, and if sensitive data is being uploaded to the cloud, to block it, to put alerts out, to make sure the user doesn't do that or they remove it. We want to make sure that the right person is accessing that data. Identity is so critical. Multi-factor authentication is part of that identity posture. It's pretty typical today. Advanced threat protection for all those types of external threats, and of course, visibility. And cloud access security brokers really need to work across all types of cloud services, whether it's your business SaaS, collaboration SaaS, which is like your SharePoints, for example, and then also, of course, your long tail software as a service applications that maybe you don't have sanctioned by your corporate environment, but people are using anyway. And of course, infrastructure as a service, you need to secure this type of applications, particularly things like misconfigurations. We want to make sure that the S3 buckets on an AWS workload are secure and they're not open, so that people can have that data is exposed. That's a very, very big security issue there. And so different types of cloud services should all be covered by cloud access security broker. And the best and most secure approach to that has been to proxy that traffic and to also have a mix of APIs in the architecture as well, across managed and unmanaged devices with agents or without agents. And so secure web gateways are a little different. Secure web gateways are built for web traffic. And like I said, they've been around for a while. They go, it's usually a forward proxy or reverse proxy. They're situated next to your firewall, for example, and they would inspect that web traffic, particularly what's coming through from the web, filter it with categorization, provide threat protection, have application controls, excuse me, and have data loss protection as well. And so the problem with gateways, even though they've been around for quite a while, is that branch traffic has to be backhauled to the corporate data center to secure it. So you're backhauling traffic to a centralized location, which can be slow and it can be expensive. And the remote users typically have to use a VPN, which is also slow and has latency and performance issues. And redundant appliances for high availability, right? You'd have 2 gateways for every one that you need to deploy for failover, right? And inelastic appliances that become bottlenecks when traffic surges, and appliances throughputs drop when multiple features are enabled. So hardware is typically where secure gateways come from, but there's also cloud proxy technologies out there, which are like the first generation of cloud security for web gateways. Those are interesting, but they still backhaul the cloud traffic to a centralized location. And so while the advantages are that devices are protected when they're off the network and you've reduced some of your management costs compared to appliances, you still have multiple hops where there is latency. That's just sending that traffic to a cloud proxy to do inspection. You've still got the certificate management overhead. You've got still the complexities of tunneling from an on-prem border router, et cetera, with some redundancy issues and sort of security and privacy concern as well for some of that environment. So cloud proxies are sort of a first step in terms of getting rid of the actual hardware appliances, but there's actually a better way, we believe at Bitglass, to do secure web gateways, and that is to put the gateway technology on the endpoint. Actually put it on the endpoint and do the decryption, do the inspection on the device using software with a cloud, with an on-device proxy application. So that would enable remote workers to have the security across all types of devices, minimizes the risk of infection while they're off the corporate network. And it's much simpler, right? It eliminates complexities with having to tunnel traffic, route it to a centralized location, It's more simple and consistent. If we can install that agent across all of our endpoints, we have a simple and consistent method to secure and manage web traffic. No network changes or gear needed at the branch office, which is often complicated with a gateway like that, because typically your customer will have multiple branch offices. And so this sort of solves the environment we're in, where everyone has multiple devices. They're working remotely. And you can do the gateway technology closer to the user, which is where Secure Access Service Edge comes in, where we're borrowing the idea from edge computing, which is putting the POP and the technology closer to the user. So it increases the availability with this distributed architecture, so it's more resilient. Separation of the data in the control planes often is a good architecture benefit. And most importantly, eliminates the latency from the network hops that you might have with a cloud-based secure web gateway. And here's a diagram of how that would look. You install the Smart Edge agent on your device, whether it's and wherever you're working, whether it's in headquarters, the branch, or working remotely. And it connects into an elastic proxy, which can scale as your traffic grows, and we integrate this technology with our CASB technology. So that becomes integrated in a single platform, a single pane of glass to manage both types of traffic, whether it's cloud applications or it's simply web traffic and web applications. All that simplifies it. So the real benefit, though, of having SASE is around cost. By having this technology on the endpoint, it cuts the cost of appliances and software. We improve productivity, we improve scalability. And for a lot of customers, we've also heard feedback that it helps their privacy, because you're now keeping the data closer to the user. You're not sending it out to another country, another location for inspection. In some countries in the world, that can be an issue. And it's just more intuitive and a better architecture to scale your web traffic. So to show you how that might look from a cost perspective, we have a case study we've run with one of our customers. And this customer is a banking customer with 10,000 employees around the world. And just think of the technologies they would have to deploy without SASE. So before SASE came along, you'd have to have your VPN combined with your firewall. And if you had 10,000 employees, you'd have to scale that for a certain number of appliances, and a certain number of costs per year, a certain number of costs per appliance. They'd have to multiply that type of business case to secure web gateways, to DLP appliances, a CASB deployment, an IDP identity deployment, IDaaS, for example, and your multi-factor authentication. If you had a multi-factor authentication technology, you instigated separately. So think of the stack of security products your customer will have with multiple vendors, each having an OpEx and a CapEx component, can be expensive. If you could collapse that technology into a single unified platform, you'd only get a cost per license per user with all that functionality. It reduces the complexity of managing your security stack, but also should yield operations and CapEx benefits in terms of cost savings. And that's where the powerful message is with Secure Access Service Edge. And so nowadays, when we're talking to customers and we're selling our product, we're not just selling cloud access security brokers anymore. We're selling Smart Edge, and we're often combining it in the same package for same solution set for each customer, because the value proposition is just so compelling from a cost standpoint. And so I encourage you now that as a partner with Bitglass to start thinking about customers that would need the SASE solution. It's a 4-month time to ROI, so it's quite fast in terms of getting that savings back. If you think of those savings coming from no need to backhaul all your traffic to a centralized location for secure gateways, the costs versus appliances and maintenance and high availability and all the things that you would have to pay for in the legacy world of secure gateways. And then think about how can you help your customer become a trusted advisor to help them build a cloud-first platform, one that should scale as you scale more cloud and more devices and more locations, and should provide the performance that you need. And of course, from being a Bitglass partner that we have this polyscale architecture that where we can grow and scale our CASB solution quite effectively. It's the same way for secure gateway that we have. And of course, start talking to your customer about how to save with a unified platform, the benefits of and the cost savings of simplifying their security stack and working with Bitglass. And of course, making sure that they understand that we continue to innovate, we continue to add more technologies, more products, more ecosystem technology partners to our business so that we can help our customers innovate and scale. So that being said, I'm going to transfer you over to Bill now from Channel Sales to talk about partner resources and update you on those points. Bill?
Thanks, Jonathan. Sounds good. So yeah, as Jonathan mentioned, my name is Bill Ng. I'm the channel account manager covering the Western region at Bitglass. Thank you for attending today. Just wanted to go over a couple of resources that are made available to you as a Bitglass partner. And if you're not a Bitglass partner, these are the same resources that will be available to you once you become one. So moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so we have our sales and technical certification programs available to you. We do a technical training and certification every other month. We also host an on-demand sales training and certification within our partner portal. So as soon as you get access to the partner portal, that is available to you as a Bitglass partner to do at any time. It takes roughly 45 minutes to go through the content and short quiz at the end, and we will send you a Bitglass Sales Certified Partner Certificate upon completion. And for upcoming instructor-led trainings, that schedule is also made available within our partner portal. So the next upcoming tech training and certification that we have is specifically for the North America and Latin America regions is November 17th and 18th from 1 to 5 p.m. each day, and that's in Eastern Daylight Time. Essentially, it's a two-part session that is run by Justin Crowley, who you have all met at some point, who's our technical channel enablement manager. Goes through the admin console to provisioning apps and securing apps and all the various use cases that you will encounter when managing Bitglass. Go ahead and click to build out the rest of the slide there, Jonathan. Thank you so much. The last thing that is available is we are running our Bitglass channel spiff through the end of the year. So partners, you have the ability to earn up to $750 per deal. So we're paying $250 per meeting that you bring to Bitglass. And then we're going to be spiffing $500 if that goes into POC. So for all you SEs out there, definitely a lucrative spiff. And the spiff comes in the form of a check, so you can spend it whenever and wherever you want. This is available to all signed Bitglass partners. There is a minimum opportunity threshold at $50,000 ARR. And then moving to the next slide here, just to kind of wrap things up. So again, the Bitglass Partner Portal is your one-stop shop for everything Bitglass. Deal registration tool is available in there, as well as marketing content that you can co-brand. Simply by signing up for an account within the Bitglass Partner Portal provides you access to our monthly communications, our bi-monthly partner communications. So we actually do a monthly newsletter and a monthly partner enablement webinar series called the Rock the CASB series. And essentially, we'll send our newsletter, let's just say the second week of the month, and then at the last week of the month, we'll do a Rock the CASB series. So tons of great information from an enablement perspective that's available to you, whether it's on the portal or through our webinar series. So if you have any questions, feel free to email partners@bitglass.com. And with that, I will turn it back over to Carmen to wrap things up.
Thank you, Jonathan and Bill. To get additional information or would like to see a personalized demo or have a follow-up discussion, please contact myself. My details are listed here, or your dedicated exclusive networks account manager. Also, please make sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date with all of our latest news, offering, and updates, as well as keep an eye out for our exclusive networks monthly newsletter for a consolidated snapshot of our vendor news, tools, and upcoming events. And here are some of the other best of breed vendors I mentioned earlier in the webinar. Again, to learn more about Bitglass or any of our other vendors, contact your dedicated exclusive account manager or myself. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Josh for any questions. And I also like to personally thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Carmen. Does having the SWG on the endpoint affect performance?
Hi there, Jonathan here. I'll answer that. Does not it's hardly noticeable, the impact on performance. If you think about the progress today that has been made on computing power on devices, it's much more improved now. With 2 cores, it runs well. We recommend 4 cores and a minimum of 4 gigs of RAM, and the throughput is not very high either. So it doesn't really impact performance at all. And if you'd like to notice or take a look at the performance of our Smart Edge technology, you can always request a demo. Happy to work on it with you. It's just a new architecture that is much better suited to the cloud world and to a remote workforce when your secure web gateway proxy is on the actual device instead of having to backhaul traffic, like I said in the presentation. Thanks.
Awesome. And can't the user simply uninstall the agent and bypass the security?
That's a good question. What's the point of having a good security tool if people can just uninstall it? So, if you think about agents you'd install on your device for the Smart Edge, for example, users cannot uninstall it. That's the simple answer. And we provide a cloud integrated console where the admin can set policy in terms of what the user can and cannot do. And they can unlock in batches or groups certain types of devices, but no, the user cannot uninstall the agent on their own. Thanks.
Awesome. And what happens if the SWG agent fails? Will the end user be unable to access the web and applications? And how do you handle that?
That's another good question. So, we don't want security to slow down the business. That's a no-no in security. So, we want things to be secure. So in the event that we have a failure, we can set policy around that as well. So we can fail open, we can fail closed. The administrator console can set policy. So what happens in that situation? But we actually have ways and have set up algorithms that allow us to detect and to work out if the user is still connected, whether or not the proxy technology is working or not, whether the user is still getting their data. So using a combination of machine learning algorithms, we have a workaround around that in case that in the event that it does happen. But yeah, that's certainly the answer to that one.
So one last question here. Does your agent protect against malvertising?
That's an interesting question. So nature included in all secure web gateways is the ability to stop malicious external threats, and often they're embedded in web traffic. And so we analyze not just the URL, but we have different ways of analyzing the web traffic to see if it's malicious. With malvertising, it's basically the idea that malware is embedded in advertising links that are in a web page. And so we will do the same analysis on that URL to see if it's malicious or not. And there's several things we would do. Most notably, for example, if the file was malicious and you're downloading it, we detected it was malicious, we'd stop it and block it. But often what happens with malware is it attempts to call home, and that call home connection is where it's most dangerous. Calls home to the infected server, send any kind of payloads. We would block that link and that transmission in the event that it did that. But yeah, we block all sorts of types of threats as well that are coming in with web traffic, and malvertising is just one of the latest trends we've seen. Ransomware, we've seen all sorts of other types of attacks. Cybercrime is very innovative in terms of getting the data they need. Thanks. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Carmen. And also thank you to everyone who has joined us today. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.